The Iron Skillet is staying in Fort Worth after TCU took SMU down over the weekend, 34-17, over 51,000 on hand at Amon G. Carter Stadium to watch the 102nd battle for the Iron Skillet. We will recap that and more on our Sunday evening edition of the Frogs Up TCU Sports Podcast. I am Russ Hodges. That is Anthony North. We appreciate all of you joining us once again as we talk about all the latest and greatest in TCU sports. We will talk about the football game that took place yesterday. TCU knocking off SMU, getting to 3-1 on the season with the bulk of Big 12 play right around the corner here. TCU Soccer going on the road, picking up 2 big wins in conference play, and then TCU Volleyball going on the road as well, splitting a conference series opener against Kansas State. We will also hit on some of the Big 12 football action that took place over the weekend, some notable results there that we will recap and discuss. Anthony, it's been a pretty rough day for our NFL franchises so far. The Titans and the Bears both looking pretty rough, but hopefully you didn't have to watch too much of that Titans game. How's your weekend going so far?
Yeah, here in Fort Worth, the Titans game was not one of the local games, so I was spared from that mess today. But yeah, it was a tough one. No Titans win. Kendre Miller gets his first NFL action and gets like 35 yards, and the Saints lose. Andy Dalton gets the start against the Seahawks for the Panthers, and they go up there and lose. So not the best day all around. I think the Chargers won today though, so I don't know that Quentin Johnston did all that much. I think he may have had a handful of catches, maybe 2 or 3 catches, 15 yards, something like that. But yeah, not the best NFL watching day. The Cowboys were god awful as well. That was disgusting. Terrible game to watch. But yeah, it's been a good weekend and extremely hot here. I'll tell you. It showed up on Saturday for the game too. This Iron Skillet game. It was we're at the end of September and we're right around 99, 100 degrees. It's rough out there.
Yeah, I was watching some of that Panthers game. The Bears were so bad today that they flexed the national broadcast away and they turned it to Carolina and Seattle. But Andy Dalton played pretty well. He's filling in for Bryce Young, threw for 360 yards, couple touchdowns, and I had Adam Thielen on my fantasy bench going for 110 yards and a touchdown. So
That's how it always
the
goes.
Bears starting 0-3. My fantasy team is 0-3. It's not. I'm not a very happy camper at the moment, but I am happy about the TCU win over the weekend. So we'll get right into that. But first, this episode, of course, is brought to you by our friends at Charlie Hustle Clothing Company. Charlie Hustle, vintage made fresh. Go online to charliehustle.com. Check out their TCU merch, Big 12 merch. Use the promo code FROGSOWAR for 15% off all TCU items. Or if you want to support the Big 12 schools and some of the other programs in college sports, use the promo code 10, 12, 15 for 15% off all non-sale items. That's promo code TEN1215. We have our partnership launched with On It Athlete, who is developing a line of TCU football trading cards, working with about 40 other colleges and universities around the country. If you want more information about the On It Athlete trading cards, check out our socials, Twitter and Facebook at Frogs of War. We have information posted there. Pre-sales have launched. Packs are launching on October 2nd. $12.99 a pack, and 33% of sales are going to NIL. So if you'd like to support TCU, support the football program, purchase some trading cards. Pre-sales, again, are live, so check out On It Athlete online or on our socials. TCU football getting a big win this weekend. 3-1 now on the season. 1-0 in the Big 12 Conference. 34-17, the final score. Not much chatter on social media prior to this game. We talked about that in our midweek episode, how things kind of seemed pretty quiet after what we saw last year, maybe because the game was being played in Dallas last year as opposed to Fort Worth this time around. But it was a great crowd. Again, over 51,000. TCU has been at or over maximum capacity so far this year, which has been really great to see. And I watched this game from start to finish. A very good game. A lot of things TCU did well. Was very pleased with the defense, in particular the secondary. I thought was outstanding in this game. Chandler Morris continues to play with a lot of confidence. He had a tremendous game, 299 yards of total offense, 3 touchdown passes, no picks, no turnovers. TCU defense with 2 sacks in the second half, 2 forced turnovers in the second half as well. And the second consecutive week where TCU has forced an opposing quarterback under 50% completion. So overall, I'm really happy with this win. It's a rivalry game. Anything can happen in a rivalry environment. Things can get pretty squirrely pretty fast, but I thought TCU came out and did some really good things on both sides of the ball, and we'll get into some of those here momentarily. But Anthony, what were your some big takeaways for you from this game?
Yeah, the 46% completion percentage for Preston Stone. I just thought the TCU secondary, we knew that they would be tested in this one, and how that passing attack from SMU appeared to be something to be reckoned with, that it really could have posed a problem for the Frogs, and for that unit in particular to step up was a big sign, a big improvement, certainly from that week one. So that's a big thing. I think we were also really worried about how the offensive line would stand up to this SMU defense, that they were going to attack Chandler Morris, and there was a lot of that in the first half in particular, that the TCU offensive line struggled a little bit, but able to really get it going in the second half. I mean, really the whole team second half turned it on and just really took over this game. Was impressive to see that they didn't let SMU hang around in this one, that they hit that, came out of the break and were ready to go right away. So I think those were the big things there. Obviously huge performances from Emani Bailey, Jared Wiley catching the passes there. I think there's plenty to cover here, but overall a big win, a dominant win that, I mean, probably the score line here could have been even worse. So, I think it's good to see TCU go get, cover the spread, and in the end, relatively easily handle an opponent that has been troublesome in the recent past.
Yeah, TCU coming in, I believe, as 6.5-point favorites, and I told my buddies to take TCU to cover the spread. I felt confident coming into this game, and I guess we'll start with the offensive performance, because I thought TCU did a lot of good things offensively in this game. I think you start with Chandler Morris. He made some really, really impressive throws in this game. He hit Jalen Robinson on a couple of big gains on some perfect passes where if the ball is a few inches off the mark, it's probably not going to be completed. There was a 3rd and 14 pass where he throws a low ball to Robinson and he catches it for 16 and a first down. He had a really nice throw to Major Everhart on a play where it's 4th and 2. Morris was getting pressure in his face, and he just kind of lofts the ball up high into the air, and it lands right in the breadbasket of Major Everhart, and he's able to muscle his way in for a first down. So Chandler Morris looked really good in this game. His receivers didn't help him out all that much. Some dropped passes in this game. I know J.P. Richardson had a drop. JoJo Earl, Jalen Robinson, they had drops as well, but ultimately, 22 of 31 for 261 passing yards. He was comfortable getting out of the pocket. He made some defenders miss. He tucked the ball and ran when he needed to, which is, again, something that has continued to develop for him since the Colorado game, being more confident in his legs and being able to make plays when he needs to on the ground. So Chandler Morris had a very good game and continues to play with more and more confidence. Emani Bailey had a big second half, and SMU really deserves a lot of credit for the way they came out. And I thought they really controlled the line of scrimmage in the first half on both sides of the ball. Emani Bailey had about 15 rushing yards in the first half, was averaging 2 yards a carry. There was just nothing really there in the first half. SMU was getting a lot of push up front, but TCU came out in the second half and played with a lot more energy, a lot more push. They were generating more push up front in the second half. I thought Emani Bailey also had a couple of runs early on where he just didn't find the hole, and he was showing some much better vision in the second half. Some of those 2-yard, 3-yard carries in the first half were becoming 6 yards plus in the second half. So Bailey ultimately finished with 126 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. 25 carries, back-to-back games with 20 plus carries for Emani Bailey. So he's proving to be a workhorse. He's been very consistent. You just hope that he can continue to stay healthy and not get too worn down as the Frogs move forward. Jared Wiley, Anthony, as you said, he had a really nice game. 5 catches, 37 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was effective in the red zone. And that's huge for this team because the red zone struggles really continued in this game. And we've kind of beaten the horse dead at this point, but the issues that are plaguing this offense right now, and TCU finished the game with 457 yards of total offense, 192 yards rushing, but this offense just continues to stall when it gets in or close to the red zone. And they're just struggling to finish drives with touchdowns right now, and it always seems to be one thing or the other, whether it's penalties or dropped passes or bad play calls or miscommunication between quarterback and receiver. It's just frustrating to see the points that TCU is leaving on the scoreboard because the Frogs are showing minimal trouble moving the ball over the middle of the field. They're going 30, 40, 50 yards on these drives, and they just can't seem to finish. And the area of the game where I was really frustrated was in the second half. TCU's up 27-10. SMU is reeling. They are against the ropes. Josh Newton picks off Preston Stone and brings the ball all the way back to the 10-yard line. TCU set up in a position where you score a touchdown there, the game is absolutely finished. It's over. Your opponent is lying on the ground, your foot is hovering over the neck, and you start the drive off with a reverse to Savion Williams for no gain on a play where if it's not going to work with Quentin Johnston, it's not going to work with Savion Williams. Take that play, whatever page of the playbook that play is on, rip it out and burn it. I never want to see it again. It never works. It didn't work with Quentin Johnston last year. It's not going to work with Savion Williams, who didn't have a target in this game. He had 1 touch, and that was on this one play. After that, you have an incomplete pass where either the receiver ran the wrong route or Chandler Morris just threw a bad ball that was nearly intercepted. Blake Nowell picks up, I think, 4 yards on third down. And instead of just kicking the field goal, taking the points, going up 30-10, again, late in the second half, playing at home, winning by 17, TCU attempts one of the worst fake field goal tries that I have ever seen. I don't know if I've ever seen TCU try a fake field goal. I've seen other teams try, but the play was just mind-boggling. I mean, why are you even trying a fake field goal there? I don't know, but Jordy Sandy couldn't even make the play because he slipped getting up off the ground, and then he just throws the ball into the end zone and it gets intercepted. Like, in that scenario, at that point in the game, why are you even bothering with that? It's almost like an ego call. Like, you're trying to pump your chest out a little bit and say, yeah, we can be a little spicy with this win instead of just, taking the 3 points. But, after that, Bud Clark has a big interception in the end zone for a touchback. TCU gets the ball back. They move it across midfield, but the drive ultimately stalls and you're set up with 4th and 4. And keep in mind, Griffin Kell is already 2 for 2 on field goals. He's hit all of his PATs. Again, you don't go for the field goal. You throw a 50-50 ball to Major Everhart in the end zone that winds up incomplete on a play where maybe you could argue there was PI, but not only did you leave the offense out there, but you didn't try to set up a play for Jared Wiley. You didn't try to set up a play for Emani Bailey. And granted, there was a little bit of pressure that came through the middle, but that can't be the play there. And these are just the issues that this offense is facing right now. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but it's just frustrating because you see, as you called it, Anthony, the empty calorie yards that this team is putting up. And you can't do this against Texas or Oklahoma or Kansas State or even some of the, second tier teams in the Big 12 because they're going to make you pay. And TCU has gotten by against Houston and Nicholls State and SMU making some of these mistakes, but at some point it's got to get cleaned up and other teams are going to be punishing the Frogs.
And it was that sloppiness in the season opener that put TCU in the loss column for the season. I mean, I think TCU could be very easily sitting pretty at 4-0, ranked in the top 15 or so on the borderline top 10, headed into the heart of the conference stretch here. But yeah, this is it's enough sample size at this point that it's just something that this offense is going to do. Um, and yeah, these when you get across the opponent's 30, those drives have to result in points. There there must be points, and more often than not, they need to be touchdowns. And TCU's just not scoring in those areas. I mean, yes, TCU came out after halftime and had two big drives, double digit play drives that resulted in short field goals.
Mhm.
Um, those two drives that get inside the red zone, you come away with 6 points. Now, it's good to get points there and you're extending a lead, and that's great. But those are probably not as successful as a drive as those should have been. Um, and yeah, the fake field goal or whatever that nonsense was. And full disclosure, I was not watching this game live. Big thanks to Russ and to the team covering on Twitter and on the game thread and everything while this game was happening. I was listening to the radio broadcast at this point, and Brian Estridge was kind of befuddled at this play and was I guess thought it was a botched snap, and then thought maybe that um, Jordy Sandy just received the snap and in his like normal holder position, and then stood up and tried to throw a pass because Griffin Kell had already like run past the kick. Um, but I guess it was an attempted fake play. I've gone back and watched the
Mhm.
game since, and yeah, it's a total mess. If that was a true fake attempt, yeah, again, you can probably throw that one out of the playbook. I don't think even if you wanted to go for it there, just line up and go for it. I think the TCU offense was operating in a way that you've got a better chance with the ball in Chandler Morse's hands than you do in Jordy Sandy's hands. I mean,
Mhm.
let's be real here, and I 100% agree with you there. Why do you not extend this uh, to a 20-point lead? There, you've got a chip shot field goal. Take the field goal, take the 3 points, and get out of there. It's a, a drive that, yeah, you're probably upset you're not scoring a touchdown there after the very nice Josh Newton play to take that interception and make his way all the way down there inside the 10-yard line, and you come away with nothing is really bad. And that's yeah, I mean, TCU had these drives that work into that scoring zone, that you've got two that result in turnovers on downs and two that result in made field goals. Um, that's probably not good enough the rest of the way through the rest of this schedule. Um, so I think that's a big thing that TCU has to get cleaned up. 100%.
Mhm. And to give some credit where credit's due, I did really like the play call on the first Jared Wiley touchdown where Chandler Morris takes a snap, he fakes the handoff, and then he fakes the screen pass to JP Richardson, and that sets up the one-on-one matchup with Jared Wiley where he's able to get open in the back of the end zone over the middle of the field and score on a pretty easy throw, pitch and catch from Morris. So I think that's something TCU needs to explore more. All three touchdown passes in this game went to tight ends. Chase Curtis caught his first career touchdown late in the game. So um, TCU, I think, needs to figure out a way to get some of these big bodies more involved in the red zone. Obviously, Jared Wiley has been effective there, but Savion Williams has been a ghost this season. TCU needs to find a way to get him integrated into this offense. Perhaps the red zone is the way to do that. Even getting Chase Curtis some looks. He's 6'5". He's a big guy. Use him to take advantage of some mismatches, maybe some two tight end sets. But what's working right now for what TCU's been doing right now just hasn't been consistent. And it's disappointing to settle for 3 when you could have 6, but it's even worse to finish with 0 when you could have 6 or 3. So,
And I think we're harping on this because there's a lot of positive to take from this game. Obviously, you come away with a 17-point victory over your rival from across town that has been yapping all for the past 3 months about how much they're going to come in here. They're taking our players and they're going to come into your stadium and blah blah blah. And so, yes, there's a lot of great things to say here. This is just looking forward. I think our expectations for this TCU team are extremely high.
correct.
And higher than defeating SMU. Defeating SMU should be a given. You should walk away with that the same way you walk away with your Nicholls State win. Okay, that's too far, but
The point
honestly,
remains.
the point stands that TCU has bigger fish to fry, and in order to fry those fish, they're going to need to cook up better plays than this. I mean, well, now TCU will have their Iron Skillet to fry up better fish. But my dad jokes aside, I think that some other positives to say on the offense, and yeah, some of the play calling here certainly was very effective and did put SMU on skates in ways that made big things happen. And took advantage of some of the aggressiveness as they were trying to really get to Chandler Morris. But I also think that Morris throws for over 260 yards in this game, spreads it around to 11 receivers, and nobody has more than 5 catches. Nobody has more than 55 yards. It's really a spread the wealth kind of game for Morris that, hit the big play to Curtis, but other than that, you're not getting any major plays. The JP Richardson one was a nice large gain, I think 30 plus, but I think that's nice to see, getting all these guys involved. Even guys like DJ Allen had a pretty key catch, his 1 reception on the game, I think picked up a first down. And even with that, 11 receivers getting involved, no Jack Besh in this one, no Savion Williams receptions in this one. Dalen Wright, I don't think played. He's not on the score sheet anywhere.
Really out there, yeah.
So I think that some of these guys are going to have big days, but a day like this where you're able to just allow everyone to get a little bite of the apple, and that's it. It's tough and this is kind of what we talked about coming into the season, that teams are going to struggle to stop everyone. You might be able to slow 1 or 2 or 3 of these guys, or, for a period, hold down the run game, but it's going to be very difficult to stop all of these guys for the entire game. So getting all of them involved here, I think was a big positive as well.
Yeah, and Chase Curtis actually was the leading receiver for TCU with only 2 catches, but he showed some big-time yards after catch ability on both of his plays. So he's a player who could definitely be more involved moving forward. And then defensively, I thought this was the best performance from TCU secondary all season. Everybody in that secondary made a big play or multiple big plays in this game. I thought Avery Helm made a couple of nice plays, some pass breakups, including one in the end zone. Abe Kamara had one of the biggest defensive plays in the game on a fourth down
stop
pass breakup, and that leads right into the drive that's capped off with the Emani Bailey touchdown run. So Abe Kamara made a big play there. Josh Newton with the interception, first one of the year for him. Bud Clark gets his second interception in 2 games. You have Channing Canada coming off the bench later in the game after Avery Helm got injured, and comes on a corner blitz and gets a sack. So that was really nice to see. I thought the second, and Mark Perry had a really nice game as well. I think he had 8 total tackles. He was second on the team in tackles. So he's been playing much better over these last few games after a pretty underwhelming performance against Colorado. So that's nice to see him step up. And Nnamdi Obiizor had, I think, 11 tackles. He was all over the field making
and
plays
a sack,
and showing some great coverage skills as well. So he's turning into a real asset for this defense in that linebacking core that did not have Johnny Hodges in this game. He's got that hand injury. It sounds like it's going to be a week-to-week deal. So You hope he's not out for the long term. Shad Banks did get the start, and I thought he played well in this game, and Nnamdi Obiizor stepped up as well. So the TCU defense overall had, I thought, a good game. Second half, especially, TCU really made things happen in the second half, and that's something that we saw the Frogs do multiple times last season in the second half defensively, making the adjustments and getting the key stops when they needed to. Jamoy Hodge finally made a big play. He had a huge TFL in the first half on a 4th and 2, a short run, came right through the line for a loss of 3 or 4 yards. So that was all good. I thought TCU tackled pretty well. The one thing that was a little discouraging was I did not expect SMU to run the ball as effectively as they did in the first half. SMU had over 100 rushing yards in the first half, and I think TCU defensively was trying to prevent Preston Stone from making big plays in the passing game. And I thought they accomplished that goal. The trade-off, I think, was they were giving SMU the underneath stuff. They were giving SMU the line of scrimmage to run the football. Oftentimes it was 6 down linemen going up against 3 for TCU. And it was just difficult early on to stop the run. And I thought TCU in the second half made some adjustments. SMU opted to throw on a few short yardage situations. I know there was a 3rd and 1 earlier in the game where they opted to pass instead of run the football. So I think that play calling didn't do them too many favors, but was very happy to see TCU in the second half really put the clamps down on the run game. And once that happened, with the way the secondary was playing, Preston Stone and SMU had no chance. I mean, even with Preston Stone having 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds to throw the football, he would just have to discard it into the stands because there was just nobody open downfield. So the TCU secondary really shined in this game. I thought it was the best performance from the secondary all season. And it's going to be a big confidence builder going into these next couple of games against West Virginia and Iowa State, where you have some potentially suspect quarterback play. West Virginia is a little banged up at that position right now, and Rocco Becht had a career performance over the weekend, but the larger sample size would suggest that he's prone to making some mistakes as well. So defensively, I know some folks on social media were talking about the lack of a pass rush, and we've talked about it on the podcast as well. And that's the downside of that 3-3-5 is unless you're blitzing frequently, you're just not going to really get home. And I thought SMU, again, they controlled the line of scrimmage pretty well in the first half, but the secondary was covering extremely well. And it didn't matter how long Preston Stone had, he just couldn't find anybody. And that's the big reason why he finished the game with 2 interceptions and completed only 46% of his passes.
And yeah, I think early in the game is when a lot of that chatter comes out, which anytime an opposing offense has like a semi-successful drive, the people just come out of the woodworks to yell about 3-3-5. So fair enough, I guess. But yeah, early in the game where some of those you're rushing 3 and they're getting less than no pressure. I mean, they're getting nowhere even close to causing problems near around the line of scrimmage. And on a lot of those plays, the secondary is still shutting down, and Stone just has all day to find a lane to pick up the 3 or 4 yards or whatever it is to go get a first down. And some of those, I don't know if TCU had a spy on Stone and that spy just didn't get there in time to make the play, or what was happening there. And a lot of that may be not having Johnny Hodges on the field. I mean, Johnny Hodges was a full game wrecker against Houston. He really made a lot of things happen there, and not having him at the line of scrimmage in the run game, but also kind of making things kind of difficult for opposing quarterbacks. That does cause problems. I will say TCU still got 3 sacks in this game, still had 4 QB hurries. I think TCU did plenty to clearly make things quite difficult for Preston Stone back there. And yeah, maybe there were a few, particularly, maybe it's just they were a little bit conservative in that first half defensively on, all right, let's just sit back. If they get a field goal here, we'll let them get that field goal, and we'll live to see another day. Which, it turned out to probably be an okay strategy, as TCU runs away with it in the end. I was thinking of something else defensively too, but I think that was the big thing is TCU still found ways to get pressure despite those kind of early in the game. Yeah, it continues to be fair criticism, but at the same time, I do think it may be a little bit intentional from this TCU defense to, yes, we are not generating a massive pass rush with these three guys as you're blocking with your full offensive line. So I think it's a little bit of trade-off, and sometimes TCU fans just got to kind of live with that roller coaster as it may be. I thought, yeah, the TCU secondary did a terrific job. Jordan Hudson for SMU, is in all of the media packages from SMU leading up to this game. He's got his photo shoot in the stockyards with his Dallas jersey on and all of that. And that's really cute. It's nice of him. I think SMU did a good job of feeding him, making sure that he got his targets and his receptions. On the official depth chart, he is third on the official depth chart at SMU. So I hope he's gotten his payday. And he did get 50 yards in this game, and he did have a pretty good game. But there was so much talk throughout the offseason about how SMU is just going to throw money at all the players in the world, and they're going to take everybody that TCU wishes they had on their campus. Which, sure, I think it would be great to have Jordan Hudson in the wide receiver room with all these guys at TCU, but I think TCU is just fine, and I don't know that clearly he wasn't the thing that broke the camel's back in this game on Saturday. So, what else?
I was about to say, I think I've summarized everything I had to take away from this game. It's a 3-game winning streak now for TCU as the Frogs will get ready to host West Virginia in Big 12 play. That'll be a 7:00 game. Another home game at Amon G. Carter Stadium. It's going to be a great atmosphere, a night game there. Before we get into some of this Big 12 stuff from over the weekend, Anthony, any final thoughts on this SMU win?
Hey, are we still mad about the Skillet game being canceled? Where were all the national media? Everybody
Very quiet.
TCU announces the pause. The national media comes out of the woodwork and says, this is the end of college football. This is what's wrong with, this is the most terrible. Where were all the stories? Where was the national media? Were they in Eugene chasing Deion Sanders, losing by 50 points or whatever?
Might have been in Tuscaloosa or South Bend. It was
yeah. I mean, obviously there's other things going on, but hey, this was the thing that was the most important thing in college football. This was the fabric of college football, and where was everybody? I think I say that all tongue in cheek. I think everyone knows that this is a game that is important to a handful of people, and it is. It's unfortunate that college football is no longer only for that handful of people. Mm-hmm. And we're going to move forward in the new world as SMU enters their ACC life and TCU continues in its direction. So, yeah, we can close it there and move on to the other happenings around the Big 12.
Absolutely. Let's get into some of the results from over the weekend in the Big 12. Oklahoma going on the road. A pretty tough game against Cincinnati. The Sooners coming away with a win 20-6. The Iowa State-Oklahoma State game turned out to be much more entertaining than I thought it would be. We joked during the midweek episode that I refused to pick a winner of that game because I just refused to watch it. But the Cyclones win 34-27. Rocco Beck throws for almost 400 yards. Career performance for him as the downward spiral continues for the Cowboys. Kansas is now 4-0. They beat BYU 38-27. That offense looks very strong right now. West Virginia, another quarterback goes down for Texas Tech as Tyler Shaw injures his fibula. Sounds like he has to have surgery. West Virginia with a backup quarterback wins 20-13. And Kansas State UCF, that was a really exciting game, very competitive. The Wildcats actually fell behind early on, but DJ Giddens had a huge game out of the backfield, and Kansas State won 44-31. Houston played out of conference against Sam Houston State. Pretty uneventful, easy win there for the Cougars. Anthony, any reactions or thoughts on what you saw from the Big 12 over the weekend? Also, Texas taking a fat dump on Baylor, 38-6 in Waco. So Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas State looking like the top teams in the conference right now. Any thoughts on what you saw from the Big 12 teams this weekend?
Man, I really enjoyed the Kansas State UCF game. I thought that was a pretty strong battle. I think that was on at the same time as it was in the evening slate, so it was at the same time. A lot of people were probably watching Ohio State and Notre Dame or something, but I enjoyed watching that UCF game. I think Kansas State is really good. Will Howard had a terrific game, a couple of rushing touchdowns, and kind of took over. The running game took over and kind of just wore down UCF in the end. But UCF is for real, and they played this game without John Rice Plumlee. The final score in the end, Kansas State wins by 13 points, but I thought UCF really acquitted itself well against the reigning conference champions, and I think that they will. There's plenty of reason to believe that they'll be a force in the Big 12 going forward, if not maybe a contender this season, but certainly will step right in and be a valuable member of the conference. Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredible that TCU found a way to injure another quarterback on its schedule somehow to find its way to Morgantown and injure both quarterbacks in that game. An incredible job by the Horned Frogs. Defense is just brutal violence from the Horned Frogs. I can't believe they're so terrible, evil people to have injured those two guys. All seriousness, it's really unfortunate. Particularly the Tyler Shaw injury. I mean, I think he's been playing really well. Obviously big hopes for the Red Raiders coming into the season, and he might be able to find his way to a medical red shirt or something and get a 6th season of college eligibility. But it's been a winding road for him, and it's unfortunate to see something like that. It looked like a pretty gruesome injury. So all the best to him. And yeah, Baylor's terrible and Texas is really good. Kansas is going to be really exciting. I think that Kansas-Texas game next week is going to be really fireworks. It's a huge game. 2 4-0 teams fighting for conference supremacy. It's kind of hard to believe that that's Kansas right now. But that's where we stand. And Texas will probably take it to them, but I think it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But yeah, I mean, I think at the top, it's very clearly still Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas State, and TCU battling at the top of this conference until some of these bigger games start to shake out. We've got a couple weeks away from Red River, a few weeks away from TCU Kansas State. So things will iron themselves out, but it was another fun week in the conference for sure.
And speaking of the Big 12, because I didn't mention it earlier in the podcast, if y'all would like to support the two of us here on Frogs Up or our partnership with the 1012 Network and all of the other podcasts that are involved with the network, there is a Patreon that has been launched. If you want to go online and support, go to patreon.com/1012 Network. That's patreon.com/TEN12 Network. I think what kind of stands out about the conference right now is the floor seems very low. Cincinnati, Houston, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Iowa State. This is not the Big 12 that we saw last season. There are some programs that are really, really struggling right now. And it's still early. We're only a third of the way through the season. Things could change, but would really like to see some of those programs that have been struggling pick it up. here over these next few weeks. So with that, we'll go ahead and transition into our final two items this evening. TCU Soccer looking to build on a road win over the weekend from Thursday, actually. TCU taking it to West Virginia earlier today, winning 5-1. Seven Castaigne had 2 goals. Cameron Lancaster had a huge game as well with 1 goal and 2 assists. Gracie Bryan, Skylar Heinrich, they scored as well. So TCU playing with a lot of momentum right now on a 3-game winning streak. Now 2-0-1 in the conference with a draw against a really, really talented BYU program. 6 wins now on the season for TCU. They will play their next 2 games at home this coming Thursday and Sunday. Anthony, any thoughts on what you saw from TCU Soccer earlier today?
It was awesome to see that offensive output against West Virginia, a team that TCU has really struggled with in the recent past. I think their goalkeeping and defense and their style of play has really not matched. It has been a difficult matchup for the Horned Frogs, and for them to have this explosion of offense. I mean, I think West Virginia is a little down this season. They're not up to kind of the quality that they have been in the last few, but still to go there on the road after this very long road trip, the last leg on a long road trip, to go there and get this kind of offensive output is just terrific. Gracie Bryan continues to be an offensive force the last few weeks, really turned it on after, the Horned Frogs were being held to shutouts early in the season, were scoring, had, very few games with multiple goals. So to come out here and put 5 at West Virginia is terrific, and hopefully sets the scene for a big run in conference play to a regular season title. Very much on the table. Earlier in the week, Texas lost to Texas Tech on an incredible last second shot that, if anyone who hasn't seen that play floating around social media, just I don't even know how it's possible to have happened. I mean, like literal last seconds as the clock ticks down to 0. Go find it somewhere. But the conference is kind of evening out. I mean, the teams at the top for BYU to have TCU already got the draw there. Texas with losses. The 4 or 5 teams at the top of the conference are going to battle it out, and TCU is going to be very much in that mix. So terrific performance on Sunday at West Virginia, and now I think a 3-game homestand in conference. So a big opportunity to continue to run up that conference scoreboard and accumulate some wins and some points up the standings.
And also TCU Volleyball opening up the Big 12 schedule. I know on our midweek episode, we talked about the victory against Kansas State on Thursday, a clean 3-0 sweep. TCU came back on Friday looking for a 2-match sweep of the Wildcats. It was a really good second match that went all the way to 5 sets. A few sets that were decided by only a couple points, but ultimately it was Kansas State that was able to pull it out 3-2. 15-13 was the final score of that 5th set. But multiple big performances for TCU players in this match. Lily Nicholson and Riley Buckley both had 23 assists. Melanie Parra had a historic performance. She's made multiple headlines this season. She's been tremendous since coming over from Texas. 22 kills and 21 digs in this match Friday. Only the 4th player in TCU history to have a 20-kill, 20-dig performance. So congratulations to her on an outstanding effort. Audrey Knowles, all Big 12 preseason honoree. She had 17 kills and 13 digs. So multiple players stepping up for TCU. Bree Green had 10 kills and 9 blocks, so almost a double-double for her in kills and blocks. TCU's defense has been outstanding so far. In the match Thursday, Kansas State was held to a 115 hitting percentage. So that speaks to how well the front line is playing. Sarah Sylvester has been a big part of that. She had 10 blocks in the match on Friday. So TCU starting 1-1 in Big 12 play. They're now 8-5 overall on the season. TCU will have its Big 12 home series opener this coming Thursday and Friday. I believe it'll be September 28th and 29th. TCU will take on Texas Tech in both of those matches, and they will both be played at Schollmeyer Arena. So get out to Garvey Rosenthal later this week. Get out to Schollmeyer Arena, support TCU Soccer, TCU Volleyball, and then, of course, TCU Football hosting West Virginia Saturday night. A lot of athletics going on in Fort Worth later this week, so make sure you get out there and support our Horned Frogs. Anthony, any final thoughts before we wrap up this evening?
I'll just say I had a devastating Prize Picks loss this week. You can go to Prize Picks and get your 100% deposit match with code Frogs12, but the stat projection for Preston Stone on Prize Picks was 258.5 yards, and I emotionally hedged to say, oh yeah, he's going to they're going to have to throw a whole lot to win this game, to be competitive in this game. He's going to throw for a bunch of yards. He throws for 258. So they had that line nailed exactly. That stat projection line nailed exactly. So I come away with the loss there, but I'm happy TCU comes away with the win. It's all good. That was an emotional hedge well spent for me. But yeah, other than that, that's all.
And we will continue to bring you all the latest and greatest in TCU sports here on the Frogs Up TCU Sports Podcast. That's all that we have for this evening. We will be back in a few days for our midweek episode, previewing the West Virginia matchup, as well as all of the latest and greatest in the Big 12, in college sports, and with TCU. Continue to support us online at Frogs of War. Our website is www.frogsofwar.com. Also continue to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Frogs of War, and here on the Frogs Up TCU Sports Podcast. I am Russ Hodges. That is Anthony North. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate all.
Frogs Up.